Diving in winter can be a bit of a struggle. The visibility tends to drop where I dive anyway. The visibility drops, the water temperature drops, and there's a lot less fish around. So that's generally speaking a lot less pleasant and a lot less productive. But we do like to still get out from time to time in the winter because it's just different, and we still like to try and get a feed. So we managed to get offshore in this day and launched and ran out. I found myself a tuskegee that just swam straight underneath me when I was descending, so that was a nice surprise, and that was something for the dinner plate later on.
Ready?
We came across a lot of big Queensland groper. They're a protected species, huge things. They grow massive, and a lot of big turtles. And also being winter, you get a lot of whales around in our area, and yeah, we could hear them singing all day long. At one point we found some reasonable water. It looked kind of bluish, but the guys are a bit skeptical. It is winter, so they pulled up to the spot, but they didn't really want to commit to jumping in. So they threw me over and said, just check out the viz, and I jumped over in about 20 metres of water, so 60, 70 feet, and I just dove down about 6 metres, so about a third of the way, and as the reef came into vision below me, I could just see cobia moving around on the bottom, fairly good sized ones. So I came back up. I didn't want to spook them, and I just told them that there were cobia there. So they set the anchor. There wasn't much current around today, and they all rolled over. By the time they rolled over, I went over first, but the boat had swung, so I wasn't in the same spot. So the part of the reef I went into was not where initially I jumped over and I'd seen the cobia. But by the time the last guy got in the water, he was right on the spot. So when he actually dropped down on the reef, the cobia presented itself in front of him. And he was hollering and called me over for a second shot, which I plugged. They're a bit of a struggle, those fish. Really hard to land, really tough on your gear. I have the spear that was used on the cobia. As you can see, it was bent, which is typical. You tend to ride off a spear when you shoot a cobia, a big one anyway. But what surprised me was it actually bent right where the groove is for the dynema. I've never seen a spear actually bend there before, and although it's a weak point, it's a narrow point, you'd think, well, that could be in there because it's obviously thinner, but there's not a lot of torque that gets applied to that part of it. It's normally flapping loose in the water. So what we figured happened was that when the cobia ran down and was going along the reef, it must have pushed this up against a rock and then really applied the pressure there that actually just bent it. So this spare is toast, but you know that when you're about to pull the trigger on one of those. The tuskegee hit the pan and I complemented it with some potatoes that I did in the barbecue. And it came out quite nice. It's good to get something from a trip at the end of the day.